Hello, Tim.
Hey, Tia, great to be with you again.
Yes, welcome to the Arrive at Happy show. I am very excited for this conversation, and I know the listeners are going to love it. So, if you are listening, get a pen and paper. If you're driving, make sure that you go back because I know that you're going to want to be writing down some things that Tim is saying. So, Tim, I want to start off by inquiring about this idea of the primal brain. I talk a lot about the brain and happy brains. I want to learn from you about the primal brain, and your subtitle also is how we think and why we act. So I'm
Yes.
sure you could probably spend 7 hours on this.
Or write a
So
book about it. Yeah.
write a book about it exactly. But knowing that we only have 25 minutes total, give me an overview and why you're so passionate about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that most of us have been working under this wrong assumption for a couple of thousand years since the ancient Greeks. They're saying basically people are rational, and if we could only tame those wild horses of emotions, then life would be good. We'd all be like Mr. Spock or something and make perfect decisions all the time. And it turns out that's not how life works. Our quote unquote rational conscious brains are a relatively recent enhancement. And the driver is actually the primal brain. That's our subconscious, all of our automatic instincts, things we learned along the way from experience, like, ouch, don't burn your hand on that hot stove. That's all really important stuff for survival. And so the fast acting, never go to sleep part of our brain is the one in charge. And that's what I call the primal brain. And occasionally, when we're not tired and we're had a good meal, then our conscious brain also functions, but that one has much more limited capacity. And this is the important part. The conscious brain never actually decides anything. All it does is provide us with options and contingencies.
Mm,
You can't
it never
have a
actually
decision.
decides. It's
Yeah,
just,
you can't have a decision without an emotional component. And so basically, our lives are highly emotional. We're much more susceptible to unconscious biases in our environment. And that's what I referred to as the primal brain.
I mean, it explains so much. We were just talking about global issues, and you could think that um okay. And so how come you are really passionate about this message, about teaching people about this? It's obviously, just from what you just said, extremely useful, and the more people understand, the better. But can you tell me just a little bit about your story, that how
Yeah,
come
well,
you're so passionate about it?
my own odyssey with it began as well, at least back to my college days. I was computer engineering major, but also a double major in cognitive science. So studying the brain has always been my bag. And then I was in the PhD program at UC San Diego for 7 years and studied AI. In the early days, I'm really old,
Ah,
but um, it studied neural networks and basically how to sift through large amounts of data and then figure out subtle patterns in it. That's like all the stuff is working now because we have the algorithms, like the stuff I worked on, and huge data sets from the internet. Now it's all taking off. But yeah, so
right.
I've always been interested in the brain. I ran a digital marketing agency called Site Tuners for almost 20 years, and
Yeah.
we created 1.2 billion in value for the Googles, Siemens, Facebooks of the world. And all of that was based on this deep understanding of how people actually make decisions. And to me, if you're in
Mm,
marketing and you don't understand evolutionary psychology, you're playing with both hands tied behind your back.
I love it. And so for people listening, and we make thousands, I've read different numbers of how many decisions, there's a range of how many decisions we make every day, but I don't know, it's like 3,500, maybe more.
Well, I think that the way to the numbers I've seen is something like, we process 10 to the 11th power of, like, data coming in, and only 40 or 60 per minute reach our conscious awareness.
Hmm.
So it's just like this tiny, tiny fraction of 1% is our conscious thought, but the brain is taking, and think about everything going on around you. Um,
Oh,
the temperature in the room, the air currents, disturbing sounds, light, the pressure of the chair if you're sitting down on your butt right now, all the relationship of your limbs in space. It's why you don't stick salad forks in your forehead very frequently, as you're aware of all of those body parts. So all that's flooding in, but it doesn't all get consciously processed, and
Right.
certainly not remembered afterwards. That's for sure.
Right.
So the brain's a giant ignoring machine.
Because there's so much coming in, right? It's like you
Yep.
couldn't possibly, yeah, it would. So I'm thinking of people listening who are working full time, may or may not
Mm-hmm.
have kids, be in a marriage or partnership, and are doing their absolute best every single day. And I wrote down, like, they want to be successful in their
Mm-hmm.
career. They want to be healthy in their mind and body. Most people have a goal of being as happy as they can, right? And just and if you think, like, for me, success, it's all areas of life, right? It's certainly not just your career.
Mm-hmm.
And so as it comes to um decision making and making decisions with everything you know,
Mm-hmm.
two questions. One is, what are the few key things that get in the way?
Mm.
And what is your advice? Like, what's holding people back, and what is your advice for that, with the lens of this understanding of how our primal brain works?
Well, I have a whole chapter in my Unleash Your Primal Brain book about the chemistry of happiness. So I want
Let's start there. We'll start with happy. I talked about successful, healthy, happy. So yeah,
yeah,
let's
yeah. So,
happy.
one of the keys is, this is something we share with fruit flies, by the way. So it's not like distinctly human. Is this chemical called dopamine? I'm sure you're
Yeah,
familiar, and your
we all know love
audience is familiar. But
dopamine.
most people mistake what that is. They go, "Oh, that's the you get a payoff for hitting a reward chemical." Well, actually, it's more subtle than that. The idea is that it keeps you going forward in small little steps for things that enhance your survival value. Okay, so it says, how much energy should I allocate to chasing a potential
Say that
reward?
again. Enhance your survival. Did you say value?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Okay,
like
cool.
your chances of survival. So how much energy should I invest in chasing this goal? Now, sometimes that might be food, sometimes it's a mate, but sometimes it's just not worth it. And so if we use up too much energy, that's a problem too. We die because we don't have enough food or something like that. So dopamine basically gives you little nudges forward based on your model of the world to chase things that you think are going to help you survive. And if you don't get what you expect, then there's literally this kind of oh shit circuit in the brain that says, whoa, that didn't work. So you update your mental model. So dopamine, what it really does is it's there to maintain a more and more accurate mental model of reality. And whenever we have pain or things don't work out, dopamine updates our mental model in a hurry.
So when I studied with the neuroscientist, and there was a whole module on dopamine. It is known also as the reward transmitter, but you actually get the dopamine right before let's call it the reward, whatever that may be. It could be work, could be other things, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So it is it's the motivator, and it also it's going to
Exactly. It's the one that says use a little more energy to go move
use
in
a
this
little more
direction.
energy. Like,
But
it's
by the
worth
way,
it.
so this is a really funny one, and this explains gambling and the way that slot machines are set up and a lot of other things. We actually get more dopamine if there's a near miss. If we don't quite get our reward, but we get close, it basically says, "Ooh, if I
Oh,
tried
that
a little
explains
harder."
gambling.
Yeah. So you actually get like 3-4 times as much dopamine if you get that, two cherries and a cherry that's slightly off on the slot machine. You go, oh, I almost had it, and even though the win percentages are defined, those near miss percentages, they really screw with you and skew those. So you think you're close to the actual win when you're not.
Got it. Okay. All right. So knowing this, can you give listeners a tip or a tactic in knowing, just connecting it to dopamine of something that they can
Oh, okay.
do that will
Well,
help them?
Yeah, so here's the problem with dopamine and all the other happiness chemicals, oxytocin, endorphin, serotonin. All of them, you kind of need more and more. It's just like any other drug addiction, if you will. To get the same high, you need higher doses. So the problem is that on the negative side, we can become gambling addicts or sex addicts or experience seekers. Like we go, oh, I go to a lot of music festivals. Well, then you got to go to a bigger one with even more stuff going on the next
Because
time.
of the hedonic adaptation.
Yeah, exactly. Your brain just kind of normalizes to whatever you've already
Yeah, it's
seen.
like,
And
oh,
then
we
you
go to
have,
music festivals. This is not exciting anymore. Yeah,
yeah. Next time you have to go to, I don't know, skydiving or something, to get the
right,
same rush. And so
right.
the problem with most of our happiness seeking behaviors is in the long term, they actually lead to unhappiness because we can't maintain this escalation. And the only tip I have, the only sustainable, non-addictive source of happiness that I've
Yeah.
found is recapitulating gratitude. What are the good things in your life and being grateful for that? Now there's um, examples of this in a lot of different practices and religious traditions. So like
Yeah,
you
and
might
there's
want to,
so much research on gratitude, of
yeah,
course.
So for example, you might go to bed thinking about all the good things that happened. So like a lot of people journal in the morning. I journal at night, and it's just little bullet points. I never go back and read it again, but like, oh, I saw a cat on my walk. My daughter said, "I love you too," when I said I loved her. This is a rare occurrence with teenagers, and all those little things, and you stack up those little wins. And there's
Mhm.
a bonus because at night, your brain processes the things that happen in the last hour before sleep about 5 to 6 times more than the rest of the day's events combined. So you can kind of prime it and skew it to say, focus on the good stuff that happened to me.
Prime your gratitude brain before bed.
Mhm.
So, I've been researching and have dove in and queered the company around the science of happiness. So it's interesting when you say, oh, I could think of one thing. I'm like, I feel like I have 150 things. So I feel like we could almost do a second episode,
I'm
or
up for
yeah,
it. Just say the word.
on have that discussion of it. And like the first thing that came to my mind, which is, the Dalai Lama's whole message and many others, of course, is when you are helping others, when you are serving, whether it's
Mhm.
other humans, animals, or the earth. Like my daughters and I volunteer at a retirement community. And just we were there yesterday, and I just leave. And I literally, I'm like, I feel like it's oxytocin. I feel like there is serotonin. I feel like, so I don't know.
Well,
I
yeah,
would
yeah,
say it's
you're absolutely right. So the whole fourth part of my book is called hypersocial. It's about we're the most social, advanced mammals by far. And
mhm.
there's this really cool study, you're probably aware of it. They basically traced since the 1920s, I believe, these entry class into Harvard, and they're
Oh yeah, the Harvard Grant
Southie,
study.
yeah,
Yep.
the Southie, South Boston, kind of
Yeah. And
white
it's
trash,
all
if you
about
will, cousins. And they traced them now for 70, 80 years and done all kinds of metrics on. And what they figured out is that a high degree of social cohesion and social support is one of the most important
it's
factors in life.
vital.
And in
Yes.
terms of like the outcomes of like medical stuff and medical well-being,
Yeah.
not having strong social supports is the same as being a 2 pack a day smoker.
I know. I
That's
know.
how
Yeah.
important it is.
And I mean, the US Surgeon General just came out with the report on the loneliness
Yes.
epidemic in the United States, right? It's like so knowing that you are a very busy entrepreneur, you're a speaker, you travel. How do you maintain social connections? Because you are a very busy professional.
Well, I think you have to, the way I look at it is it's having a strong foundation. I do all the things that support my well-being. Now, to me, that's sleep, which is the most
Oh,
foundational. 7 to 9 hours
sleep.
of uninterrupted sleep. You can, it's daily life support. Anybody that tries
Yeah,
to shortchange
I
sleep
like
is,
that. Daily
yeah,
life support.
absolutely.
True.
And then it's close family relationships, which again, with two teens in the house, it can be a hit or miss proposition.
Don't
But then
take it all for, yeah, it's the
uh,
season.
yeah, and then there's well established practices. In my case, Tai Chi. Other people have yoga or things like that. There's a reason these things have existed in some form for thousands of years. They're like the mechanical kind of nervous system operation of our body is pretty well understood. You do those things, you're going to regulate your nervous system and all that polyvagal theory stuff. I don't know if you're
Yeah.
into that.
Oh, 100. Yeah. Our older daughter's autistic. So I have been learning more about the nervous system over the past 18 months than all before, because she actually has a nervous system disability. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So that's supportive. And then I have a weekly men's circle through the Mankind Project here in San Diego that I sit in every week. So you basically put the
Oh,
big
you
rocks in first, all of the stuff you need to
big rocks
support
in.
your well-being. And you have to build them in at the level of habit so that then inertia is actually helping you maintain them. Not like trying a bunch of different stuff. It's about just doing things consistently that you know are good for you.
Yes. So many people that I work with and talk to, struggle with keeping the big rocks inconsistently
Mhm.
because there is, and maybe that we're going to come back to dopamine with what we're going to talk about. I don't know, because of the drive for financial success, being more successful financially, and being more successful in your career, whether that be title, accolades, your business growth,
Mhm.
etc. And so there is sometimes I would say a delay of like, yeah, I know many people are like, oh, I know I should be doing date nights with my husband or wife, right? Where
Mhm.
I'm like religious, I'm like, we need date nights to just, we have two little kids. I'm like, we need it. Or, I know I should probably go visit my parents, or I know I should exercise.
Yeah. Well, so how
And
do you
and
so
and people are really driven. They're not, but they want the balance, but that I think that's a real struggle. And so it'd be valuable to hear your perspective on like they have the big rocks, but they're not always getting in there every week.
yeah, well, I think that and again, maybe I'm going to be a contrarian here, but pardon me if I offend anyone, but I think like all this, you can have it all Tony Robbins-ish kind of bullshit. Well, sorry, that I just said what I meant to say. I think it's a bullshit. Our lives are perfectly imperfect. You're never going to have it together. You go in and out of focus. It's happening in real time, and you're going to die soon. Okay, so that's reality based. Okay, so
Yeah.
you can't be the best violin player in the world and the best ultra marathoner in the world. No, something's going to fall off your plate. Money, family, relationships, whatever it is. So
Mhm.
I think it's really a matter of having a much closer alignment with whatever your core values are. And so to me, that's kind of my North Star. I have a mission statement, and anything that's on point for that, I do that. And anything that's not, I just completely ignore. You can't do it all or have it all. And so it's kind of in my life, I call it like a hell yes or no. Those are the only two responses that I have.
So good, Tim. So good. You can say no, but could you share your mission statement?
Oh yes, hell yes. I'll show. So that's a hell yes. So my mission statement is I co-create a world of peace, safety, and love through joyous expression and service.
So beautiful. Oh
So
my
that's
gosh.
my bag.
I
Thank
know
you.
everyone listens. So I agree. I actually say for what you were talking about. I remember when Sheryl Sandberg's book came out,
Mhm.
Lean In,
Yeah.
and I was a director of sales and marketing, and I think I was a new mom, like baby and this, and I literally was like, okay, do it all, and then no, like it was.
No.
I became so miserable and unhappy, and I'd always been really positive, and it was like, okay, I have different rocks. I have like literally human beings, little babies living in my house. Things are
Yes.
different.
Yeah.
I can't just work however many hours
Or
I did and
at least
stuff.
not in this life chapter. Absolutely. But I do want to
Yeah.
focus on one thing, and it's in my mission statement, and it also ties into something you talked about, the and service part. You talked about doing volunteer work. In addition to dominance, like, you know, any mammal tribe has serotonin, which is like, I feel good because I'm at the top of the social hierarchy and my needs are being met. That makes us feel good, right? But in addition to that kind of dominance, which is really like bullying at its root, you know, the ability to force others to do what you need them to do, is this human beings have this different emotion, which is prestige, our need for prestige. And that makes us want to kind of
Yes.
be there in that cultural transmission chain and share what we know with others. And especially in midlife or later, you kind of more consciously focus on that, or many of us do. And so transmitting knowledge, bringing other people along, realizing it's all this chain and we're pulling a part of it, actually gives us feelings of goodwill. We want to help others to
Mm-hmm.
know what we know. So whatever your area of
Mm-hmm.
expertise is, if you find an opportunity to share it or to teach it and to be of service that way, not for money,
Mm-hmm.
not for that reason,
Mm-hmm.
but just to give back,
But
that
to
can be
give.
very fulfilling.
Absolutely. No. And I recently was a guest speaker for the University of South Carolina, the hotel school. And it was like 15 students, small class. I was like, absolutely, I could do it. You know, I did it virtually. And I have to tell you, the notes I got from the students were more powerful to me than sometimes what I hear from corporate executives of like
Yay.
their messages. And the professor was like, I hope you keep speaking to young people. And I was like, yeah, that needs to be a part of it, you know?
Yeah, and then I did there's the seniors in the business program at University of San Diego.
Yeah.
I've done an annual thing for them, and then I also mentor this group of kind of at-risk boys in this high school in San Diego through an organization called Boys to Men. You know, so all that stuff's really,
Oh,
really
so
important.
good. Yes. So, and it fills you up and it talks about, yeah, it connects to the energy that then you have for others. And of
It
course,
just
you
makes you
know,
happy. I always say, like, people are
mhm.
100% selfish, but the things that make you happy can be of benefit to others. So
Yes. Well,
choose
that's
those
what,
things.
yeah, I think the Dalai Lama is like, you know, people, the source of so much unhappiness is thinking too much about yourself. But if you turn it outwards, um, so let's talk a little bit others. Can you, okay, talk from your perspective and also thinking about a tool or two or a tip about oxytocin, going back to that.
Okay, oxytocin. I'm just going to bust some myths really quickly. So oxytocin, you know, again, people think, oh, it's the cuddle hormone. It's like, and it makes everybody happy, and it's not. Oxytocin is this razor's edge, and it's there for raising your kids. Like, you can imagine when your babies are little and they're barfing all over you and crying. Like, an animal in distress, you normally want to just stay the hell away from. And so
Oh,
what
or like
oxytocin
drop it
does
off on
is,
someone else's doorstep.
right, exactly. That's happened,
Yeah,
by the way.
yeah.
But you know what it does, oxytocin actually changes the boundary where we do that. So it makes parents want to take care of their offspring. And
Mm,
so it moves them into this circle of care and concern.
which we
But it
need for
has the
survival,
other
of
side of
course.
it, which is the mama bear is going to kill anyone that comes near the cubs.
Yep,
So that's like stranger danger, and it's
yep.
actually violence against the outgroup. So in human beings, most animals have that in-group, out-group thing, but human beings, we have this third indeterminate state, which is, I'm not sure what your intention is towards me. You're an unknown. And so what happens with oxytocin and, you know, street drugs like Molly at raves and so on is that it actually shifts that unknown group into your in-group. It makes you love
Mm,
them like you would your own family
right.
till the drug wears off. But that's really what it's for. It's for parent-child bonding
Mhm.
primarily, and protecting children from outside dangers.
But in with friendship
Mhm.
or marriage or partnership, um, can you talk about that as
Yeah,
it
well,
relates to
in that
oxytocin?
context, oxytocin is released. I think, you know, you're in Canada, but I know you've lived in the U.S. But in
Yeah.
general, North America and Northwest Europe, we're kind of emotionally constipated, if that's a fair thing to say. So one of the things that I tell people is that 20 seconds of skin contact releases oxytocin. You just need to give people a nice long hug.
20 seconds of skin contact.
Yeah. So
I mean, I
that,
give
like,
it to my
hold
kids all
hands,
day
all that
long, but I'm
corny
sitting
stuff.
here. I'm like, I should probably be hugging my husband more. My
Yeah,
girls
or
get,
when you do have those date nights when you manage to fit that big rock in, hold hands
yeah,
in the car on the way to
yeah.
whatever. It matters.
And friendship, of course. I mean, a lot of people are hugger, yeah, of
Yeah.
just how are
Yeah.
you, or yeah, all of that. So, okay. And so when you are giving your sought after keynotes, can you share a few of the, in addition to what you've shared, some messages or other pieces that you think are really important that people need to know?
Hmm. Wow, that's a broad one. I would say that the most important thing is do things that are reality based, not the way you want them to be, but the way the
Expand on
world
that.
is.
Do things that
Well,
are reality
again,
based.
like, so you talked about certain things. We're basically sponges that soak up the culture of the tribe or the people around us. So like when you said, I care about success. Well, the very notion of success, for first of all, is just an idea in your head. And then you say, how I define success is I have to have all of these things, family and money and career and prestige and all of that stuff. So I'd caution people about like what we pick up and we inevitably do from the environment around us. You have to
Mhm.
really curate your thoughts and say, hey, is that reality or is that just like this backdoor thing that was snuck into my head by the larger culture around me?
Oh my gosh, all I'm thinking about is social media when you're
Yeah,
talking.
or I mean, just think about it like in our world of just like business. It's like it's the hustle culture. It's being on the Slack channel. It's pivoting and scrumming so your company can be a unicorn. Like we've bought into that stuff, right? And then you go, whoa, does that make me happy? And the
Is
answer
that
is
what?
no.
Yeah.
So
Slacking and
so so
scrumming
really
so my
become
company
kind of
can
like
be
a little
unicorn.
outside observer of the culture that and how you're taking in culture.
Oh,
That's what I mean
that's
by
really
reality based.
powerful.
Yeah.
Observe how you are taking, and really there's all these micro, right? It's like your friend group within your company, within your industry,
Hmm.
within your political group, within your country.
Yep. And
Um,
so my new keynote is about the primal roots of polarization. I call it the caveman's guide to understanding polarization. And polarization's built into us, but you can become more aware of it, and especially if you're a leader at a company. I
mhm,
have this primal polarization toolkit. I talk about strategies for building conscious and intentional tribes. I mean, you have to become aware of how does your company polarize? Is it across departments? Is it by where people sit at lunch? Is it that they go or don't go to happy hour afterwards? That might not work for a parent of young kids like you. So all
mhm,
of those things are really kind of tribal bonding and polarization issues that we as leaders need to consciously be aware of.
mhm, mhm. And so many people don't have everyone together right now, or if they do, I'm talking about obviously the dynamics of work and how the future of work is constantly changing and will forever be changed. Um, so as it relates to polarization, and I'm thinking of like separation and tribes, and we were just talking about the power of human connection
Hmm.
before of having people together. And of course, I in my book, I talk about the power of friendship. Like you need, you want people to feel like they are belong, that they're valued, etc. So for a leader listening that might not even have polarization on their radar, right? They're just trying to like keep everyone productive, keep everyone happy. Um, what is the first step to actually step back and go, what actually is happening here with my people?
You're stealing a little thunder from my new speech, but step one is to
Don't worry,
become
I'm not going to do
aware.
a speech on polarization.
It's okay. But the step one is to really do kind of a mental inventory of the existing tribes. And when I say tribes, it's our tendency to band together for survival reasons. I don't mean, the cultural idea of tribes.
Right.
And so
Not Seth Godin's like marketing tribes.
right, yeah, and so the if you start just looking at your work environment, who communicates with whom, what things they talk about, What brings up strong emotions? That'll basically get you back to what tribe they belong to. And people have overlapping tribes, to be clear. The streamlined haircut tribe, for example, or the Mercedes driving tribe, or the father of teenagers tribe. Some of those are temporary. Others are, we don't choose where we're born, or what color our skin is, what shape our body is. Some are involuntary. We don't choose to live in a war zone or to have childhood trauma or abuse. I mean, some of these things are not chosen at all, but they affect us.
So
But
many
basically,
are.
we're like overlapping tribal identities. And the question is, how dominant can you make consciously, can you make the work tribe? Then it'll
Mm,
supersede those other smaller identities. If not, those are going to be the ones that bubble up to the top and control our behavior. So every
right,
day your employees are bringing with them their set of tribal allegiances. And the question is,
right.
where in that hierarchy does your work tribe exist?
It's going to be fantastic. I immediately think of the hotel industry because that's where I lived and worked with a lot of passion for 15 years. And just the departments. This is food and beverage. This is finance. This
Right.
is
Yeah. No,
sales.
I used to run an international conference series. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, exactly. This is like the food and beverage people, but they don't talk to the sales people that are booking the stuff, and then the
Yep.
operations people that are cleaning the banquet halls and the rooms. So it's just like everyone's got their tribal allegiances already, and
Yeah.
so there's definitely ways to reform and break and consciously build tribes. You should actually take advantage of polarization and our inbuilt tendency to do that, but do it in a healthy way.
In a
So the one
healthy
thing I would
way.
ask leaders is like, this can definitely be misused, as you can see in the political sphere. If you use it for
Yes.
personal power, that is like the sickest reason to build tribes,
Yes.
but a
Which
lot of
is
people
what
are doing
is,
that. Yeah.
yes, which is what is happening. Oh, Tim, just tons of great ideas and just ways to look at things differently. If people want to learn more about you and find you, where should they go?
Oh, that's easy. Go to primalbrain.com. You'll find out all about my book and my public speaking, or timash.com is the other place, or connect with me on social media. The only place I'm not anymore is Twitter, because I'm not part of the crazy Elon Musk fanboy tribe.
Well, I've never been on Twitter, so we're connected there. Okay. Well, thank you for coming on. This was fantastic, and look forward to talking to you again soon.
Absolutely. My pleasure to you.